Well, that was a fantastic session, and we have a lot of questions and only about 7 minutes. So I'm going to invite you to the stage to start plowing through some of these questions. Lovely to see you. I really enjoyed that talk. I noticed how you've evolved the thinking since the last time I watched it. It's really good. And I love how you're referencing the kind of the work that you've done and how things in the UK government as well. So I'm going to start with Monica's question, which is, what are the challenges you have seen using human-centered design with stakeholders and end users?
Hi everyone. Hi Jonathan. It's really great to be here, and I hope you are all enjoying the conference. I think the main challenges of human-centered design is, first of all, not applying the human-centered design in first instance. And then I think the rest of the challenges come after that. So when we start to make these first attempts that we try to just figure out how actually people are going to benefit from our DevOps solutions, very often we then just realize, okay, so how we should do, and then how we can map out, what is going to be automated versus where is that human interaction coming there, and how we can support our users. So I think currently I can tell you definitely the most common challenges is, I think, aligning everything what the users need. And here, when I'm talking about users, there might be also different business partners, different suppliers. For me, human-centered design, it doesn't mean just the employees and other internal teams, but actually anyone who's involved in that process. And all of that this needs, and very often they're not connected to actually what the business wants. So aligning a human-centered approach and making sure that all of these needs are aligned, I think, is the biggest challenge. Very often they are just very, very different points of view, and I think my job also is to figure out what is actually that common ground and how we can prioritize all of these needs at the same time. So that's number one. And then obviously what I said, not using the full potential of design, of human-centered approach. Just, we think we know what the problem is, but then if we ask further question after that, do we really know that? And if you have this, user standing next to you and asking, oh, we need this and that tool, and we need to have this automated, and you talk to really experienced people in your organizations, you can very easily get into building something that is based on your assumptions, which is not the right direction or approach to take. So these are the main challenges.
That's fantastic. And I know there's been a few call outs there from Liz and Monica, who was kind of saying that she's worked with the Ministry of Justice and seen what you guys have done there and how you've evolved the thinking, and it's great. And missing out on those people it's kind of a really important part of the stage. So another one of Monica's questions was, are HCD and design thinking, do they complement each other?
Yeah, I do think so. So I think it's like, whatever what you do, if you are an agile coach, if you are, I don't know, a change manager, if you work in IT, it's always about different methods and different tools. And all of these methods, I think, complement each other. You can't just use one tool and think that this tool is the best, because it really depends on the context, it depends on the situation, it depends on the team you work with, even on the product or service you're building. And that's, I think this is again something that's where actually people who do this can really help you to understand what is that best method for you in your context. And I think I try to take just the best out of all of the methods. I try to be agnostic in terms of my approach, and also tailor that approach towards the context. So definitely human-centered design, I think I would say, is something overarching, and then obviously depending on that activity that you want to do or what you're trying to understand, then design thinking, again, I can't imagine actually starting a project without design thinking, without considering users. But definitely, I think human-centered design is much bigger bubble for me, from my perspective. It includes really everyone, every person in that value chain.
No, that's absolutely great. And I must admit, I give a quick shout out to Ray Arel, who I did a podcast with around solutions thinking and kind of applying that in that sense. And also Dr. Emma Langdon, who talks about systems thinking, because I think systems and solution design, there, like you said, it's what's the best for that particular solution, really. And so there's a question here, which is definitely a hard one, which is kind of, what would you recommend when sometimes the viewpoints are contradicting? Somebody says they need X, but they prefer Y, and then the business wants Z. How do you manage that? Because that's, it's a very diplomatic kind of challenge, isn't it?
Yes, and I think this is something that I definitely learn. It's not easy. When you talk to different business stakeholders, everyone has their own agenda, everyone has their own OKRs, and very often we work still in a very siloed organizations. What I can recommend, and again, it's not something that is going to work in all situations, but it proved to be fine in my case. Always, when you try to define, okay, so what is actually that outcome and that objective you're trying to achieve? And then if you have any statement that is based on data, that is data driven, value driven, if you use business language and if you exactly describe the benefit of what is it right now and then how you can benefit by doing this and pursuing that path, I think that's something that can really speak to people's hearts. And very often I just imagine, okay, so if that was my business, how I would like my money to be spent? Would I allow this initiative to actually continue, or shall I just pivot it and start again? And if we ask these questions from the business perspective, very often we're gonna find the right way. And if there are certain needs that don't have any evidence, I think that's something that it's nice to have, but it's not a necessity for the business to pursue. So I think that would be the approach that I would take.
Sure. And actually, you're kind of building on that, and I've got a last question. I know we're getting you back for the expert panel, so how would you go about explaining that to management or to leadership? How do you explain the benefits of human-centered design and get them on board from a stakeholder's perspective?
Yes, it's again a very good question, and it's really hard to change people mindsets. Very often the discussions I used to have, they were like, okay, so how can we spend, for example, a couple of weeks, a couple of months even, to do something that we just want to learn and to understand without building a thing at the end of the day? And then how would you convince that the business should invest a lot of money to spend this time to have the teams ready, to ask lots of questions to the rest of the stakeholders and users within your business? And that's something which is really difficult. It's a long process to explain the benefits. Very often there are people who are already on board, they do understand that. We have, from the kind of agile perspective, it's easy to demonstrate how we can take an iterative approach of delivering value. But then when we talk from much larger perspective, how shall we spend the next few months when we just prototype, we learn, but at the end of the day, we just throw this prototype away and then we start building the real thing. And it doesn't mean that we're gonna even continue if it proves that it's not a problem. So here, unfortunately, very often there is this kind of, clash of different perspectives. And again, I do just try to explain the benefits, and even though I'm not a user researcher myself, usually the team works on that, and we do talk to the senior stakeholders. We try to explain, okay, so what it is, what it can give us, and also show examples. I think through show and tells, demos, and also telling stories, we can achieve a great result by demonstrating, okay, so this is, for example, another government department or another company that they did user research and this is what they learned, and they stopped, and that was a really smart decision. So again, it's not easy, but it's just taking time and trying to take everyone on board. I think that's the way, and also accepting the fact if not everyone is on board, it's okay as well.
Sure, no, that's great, and I like the kind of the concepts and things like lean UX and stuff coming through for lean startup. And so, do you have? I know we've got to move on, but do you have any books or any references that you'd like to give, or how people can contact you and find out more?
Yes, sure. So definitely. So I would love to learn more also about everyone else's experience. So if you have any questions, any comments, if you agree or disagree, please feel free to reach out to me. Personally, I think how I'm trying to take this even further and how to evolve my thinking and also my projects is definitely to explore more about service design and how to actually design better services, which doesn't need to be like one person's job, but the whole activity. So definitely that's something I would highly recommend. That could be also a part of everyone's role, how to build better products, how to make better services.
Wonderful. Well, it's been absolutely great having you on, and I look forward to you coming back for the final expert panel. So thanks so much. I'm now going to